Thank you very much. And now, as I promised, who is the first person who would like to come up and ask questions? Address your question to whoever you want it answered by, and then we'll go. First question.
I'm Reg Wilcox, veteran Navy. Been interested in this whole process. The fact remains that Pelosi said, when we get into Washington, the first thing we're going to do is drain the swamp. You know, I don't think she drained anything. I think she grew it. The fact that we have wrangled, we still have the waters and the debacle that's going on down there. I'd like to know from you three. The latest thing I heard, which set me off like a Roman candle, Barney Frank, and I don't know if you all know this, has restarted the loans that put us into the financial mess that we got into. This is a whole process. Christoph hasn't, thank God he's going out. But they've started this loan business on the housing that got us into the mess in the first place. How can we stop them? That's my question. Thank you.
Defeat them. And you know, Barney Frank is now in what is considered a tight race. Proof positive that there really is a God, in case anybody doubted it. Now in the race of his life, and rightly so. And I do want to address this. This should not... Yeah, you know, some of those Wall Street people, they got greedy and they did some things they should not have done. But let's get to the truth of the matter. The cancer that caused the housing bubble was spawned in the bowels of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and their chief protector was Chris Dodd, Barney Frank, and Chuck Schumer, and proof positive are the thousands and thousands of political action committee contributions that Chuck Schumer took in his marching orders was, do not let them shut us down. And you know what? He didn't. Thank you for the housing bubble, Senator Schumer.
You know, related to that, you look at the Community Reinvestment Act. 1999, this was really the significant change that we ended up changing the rules, putting the specter of our government suing if banks did not loan. And this was tied to Fannie and Freddie, and we socialized the risk. You know, our former congressman, Jerry Solomon, stood opposed to this. And there were efforts in the late 90s to try to make these kind of changes, and Jerry Solomon said, no, you're not going to put the taxpayers on the hook for this. And the year that he retired was January of 1999, and then they brought this act into place. The Fannie and Freddie situation has not been addressed. That was one of my major sticking points over that financial reform bill, is we didn't address the underlying issues that led to the Wall Street meltdown. The second thing is that we already have agencies now that we're paying for. We're paying for their salaries and their benefits and their pension obligations and their operation and maintenance costs, and we didn't even reform them. We just created 2 new agencies to try to deal with the situation. And that, again, is a step in the wrong direction. This Congress, at every step, thinks that more government is the answer. It's not the answer. And in fact, we're going to have to cut back the size of the government. But so, when you talk about Wall Street, I mean, clearly we needed more transparency in the way derivatives are dealt and traded. But we didn't need to create more big government, and we should have addressed Fannie and Freddie. That's on the matter of Fannie and Freddie. On the matter of the Congress, I would make 2 points, because that was when the issue that you first brought up is Congress is at significant lows in their public opinion ratings. I mean, they're in some polls, they're in the high teens, and others, they're in the low 20s. I maintain there's 2 reasons for that. The first is Congress doesn't work to solve the major issues of our time. And, you know, 2 nights ago, our Congress took a vote on whether or not they should leave town. You know, as Jay mentioned, no budget. This is the first time since 1974 we have no budget. And you know, without a budget, you can't govern. Without a budget, there's no plan for job creation. And there's certainly no plan for fiscal responsibility. We had no appropriations bills. We have 12 appropriations bills that fund our federal government. We didn't pass a single one. No budget, no appropriation bills. And our tax cuts, the people's tax cuts of 01 and 03 that really just weigh in the balance there. Congress decided it was more important to come home and save their job than to protect our tax cuts. And you know, that vote passed by one. Passed by one vote. The only thing bipartisan about that vote was the opposition to it. 39 blue dog Democrats joined with the Republicans and said, we need to stay at work. We need to do the people's business. We need to work. 39 blue dog Democrats joined with the Republicans. But Speaker Pelosi, with the help of our guy, voted with Speaker Pelosi again that it's more important to come back home and fight for their own jobs than fight for us. And that's unacceptable. That's the first reason why Congress is unpopular. The second reason is because of the scandals. And you put that together, and I got to say, though, that they're on both sides of the aisle. Not just Democrats. There's some Republicans that have done that stuff, too. It's all wrong. You're going to go down there, you need to serve your constituents. So this is why we need to clean house right now. We need a new Congress that's ready to tackle the issues of our time, not skirt them. That's what we're looking for. We're going to bring a new majority, and we're going to address these issues. Thank you.
What Reg brought forward really is as much a product of our culture and our society as it is of the decision makers. And when you think about it, you have, whether it's in Albany or in Washington, you have this group that's conditioned, these officials who are conditioned to say, yes, we'll give you everything you want, unconditionally, whatever you want, we'll give it to you. And we have a culture, and when you think about really post-World War II, that's conditioned on abundance. Everything they want, not every household, but as a society, we get everything we want. We have everything in front of us. And if we don't get it, then we borrow, then we find some way around, we put it on credit, and we come to say, if you don't give me everything I want, and this is we're part of the problem as well. We as a society say, if you don't give us everything we want, we're going to take you out. We're going to oppose you. We're going to mobilize. So you have this condition in Albany, a feudal system, if you would, and in Washington, lords and barons and nobles. And I thought we got rid of those people a couple hundred years ago when we created this country. But they run around like little princes and princesses. They lose track of who they're serving. And they lose track that they have to lead by example. If you can't say no to someone on the merits of the issue, you shouldn't be there. If you can't say no because the decision that I'm trying to make is in everyone's best interest as a society, and you have to feel that you have to pander to these interests just to keep your job, you shouldn't be in the job. So part of the equation is what we expect of our leaders. Do we expect people to lead by example, or do we expect them to be lapdogs for special interests? And that's the message that has to come, and that's part of the problem. That's what we got to fix.
This question is to the two federal people. What are you going to do next January about the recently passed health care bill?
I will vote to repeal it and start over. If the repeal is vetoed, I will vote to defund it.
Absolutely, I'm for repeal and replace. The reason why we need to replace it is because everywhere I go, I hear three major impediments to growth. And it's taxes, it's regulation, and healthcare costs. The problem with that bill is it moves us in the wrong direction. Quite frankly, it wasn't healthcare reform, it was healthcare expansion. Yeah. So, you know, look what we're dealing with right now. We've got a situation where, and it's probably rife throughout the room, you're looking at significant increases to your premiums. They're coming out now. The mailings are all throughout the district. And the travesty of it all is that the more remote area you are, the more your increases. Because the issues we're having with demand and supply in terms of our doctors and providers. So in the Adirondack region, some of their increases are up to 35%, their quotes. The closer you are to Albany, some of the quotes are like 12 or 15%. But these, at a time when inflation is infinitesimal, how does a company and how does a family survive this? How do you survive all these incursions into your bottom line? You can't. And premiums are going up, taxes. There's a couple dozen new taxes now. It would take too long to go through all of them. But you know, we're blessed in our region to have nanotechnology and medical devices. We got some of the leading medical device manufacturers in the country, in the world, in NY20. And there's a 2.3% new tax on medical devices. That should have been reason 1062 why our representative voted no. But he flipped on that. He flipped. He was under pressure. Now, we've all faced pressure in our lifetime. But that's when you find out the true measure of your character. He was under pressure from the speaker and from the president. And he left us. And he flipped his vote. And he voted for that. We have higher taxes now. More regulations. Look, untold regulations. Why I say untold? It's not just the thousands that are in the bill. It's the fact that the bill creates 24 new boards and commissions, and many of the aspects in the law say as determined by the new board, as determined by the new commission. The 1099 is getting a lot of media attention these days. And, you know, our current guy is sending you robocalls and everything else that, you know, and trying to get media attention. He's the guy that's going to, you know, take away the 1099. No. He's the guy who gave us the 1099. And the bill gives us more big government, not just the boards and commission, but some estimates of 16,500 new IRS workers to enforce that bill. And I think that's the last thing we need right now is more IRS workers. So they have nothing to do with our health care, that's for sure. So look, I've said before, I'm not dogmatic about it, but I have not found any way to save this bill. Because this bill is already a deficit buster. You know, somebody tried to reach and say, well, the CBO, you know, the CBO backed, they basically put out a new report shortly after it was passed that, oops, we missed $300 billion. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't account for the 22% cut in pay to doctors. Doctors tell me every day they haven't had a raise in terms of what they get for compensation since 1996. Does anybody believe that they're going to really cut 22% from the pay? I don't believe that'll happen. I don't think it should happen. But they counted that as savings. This bill is going to be a huge deficit buster. And it doesn't even account for the second order effect. Did anybody see the headline with McDonald's a couple days ago? Yeah. There are businesses right now that are making choices based on the framework of the policy that was given to us. And they're choosing to drop coverage because they know that 300 million Americans will pick up the cost. That's not factored into the cost either. This is a huge deficit buster. I bring that up to say that when you go to fix it, if you're going to reform it, you're going to go to the most onerous aspects. And then you're going to end up with even a more huge deficit busting hole. This is why it can't be saved. So we need to repeal it. But we got to replace it. Because we've got to address the cost situation. That's why I've been an advocate. And what I have to say on this is not a panacea. I want to make sure I'm not overselling it. This is only a measure to help control and begin to drive down costs. There's going to be more that needs to be done in the longer term. But let's not try to do a 2,700-page bill again that moves us in the wrong direction. Let's all agree that 88% of the people in our district have health care insurance. The problem is you're paying too much for it.